Well, hello everybody. Welcome back into the Colored Gemstone Academy. I'm your instructor, Paul Deasy, and this is my YouTube channel, Paul Deasy Gemstones. Well, it's been a weird couple of weeks for me. Not only are we preparing to move to another part of the state of Florida, but I had an emergency trip to the dentist today, actually the endodontic, because I had a root canal. One that I had many years ago was failing, and so they had to do take some steps. So I haven't been on my normal routine. We're going to try and get back on the normal routine very, very quickly. And this happens to be episode 71. Now this is going to be a different type of lesson, much like when I had the lesson, What's Your Gemstone? And that was one of the most thought-provoking videos that we had. But this one is going to be finding new gems. Finding new gems. What does that mean? Yes, and throughout all of this trials and tribulations of moving in my teeth, I continue to thank you all for your support. We are closing on 2,400 subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I wouldn't have been able to do this without all of you, so I really do appreciate that. Now, if you are watching for the first time and you've never subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It is free. It doesn't cost you a penny. All of my videos are going to remain free for all of you. Okay, so finding gems. So I have been in the gem business for over 30 years. I have been in the shopping channel business for pretty much that same amount of time. So how do I know what I think is going to sell well or think that's going to be a new gem that I can introduce? How do I find them? How does it come about? Well, first of all, I think that if your whole idea of gemstones are the diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires, I think that's going to be quite a lonely existence. There's a lot of things out there that I happen upon that become some of my favorites, and sometimes it happens by accident. For example, when Judy and I were in Brazil, we went down to Brazil specifically to look for druzy, a supplier of druzy. And we also found some very, very nice prasiolite while we were down there. And of course, we visited an amethyst mine, and you can watch all of that in some of the previous episodes. But you sometimes happen upon a couple of other opportunities that kind of catch your eye. And this is going to be one example. A lot of people have been asking me about more agates and type of agates that there are. When we were in Brazil, we found these agates that were called tuxedo agates. See the black and white on there? They're really sort of translucent too. You'll see the light shining through, especially in that white portion. Here's another example of a tuxedo agate. And I thought that's something that would do very, very well in the shopping channels. And there was a great opportunity, but sometimes those opportunities come with a catch. So the person that we were dealing with down there said he could sell us this tuxedo agate for less than like $1 a pound. That's a really, really, really good price for gemstones, $1 a pound in the rough. Now here's the catch. He said you have to buy all of it. There were 1 million pounds. Now, I didn't have $1 million that I was willing to part with to bet on that stone. So we really didn't do much with that one. But again, a really beautiful, interesting stone. As we traveled throughout more of Brazil, we happened upon a stone that looked like this. And we thought this was just the best. That is a rainbow hematite. And this rainbow hematite was in this really small town between different mines that we were visiting. And the roads and the streets in this place in Brazil had all of this colors of the rainbow in there, because when they were mining something else, they happened upon this stone with all of those colors. And so when they were having the big dump trucks delivering the rough of the other stones, some of this was attached to it. And over the years of these trucks going over that road, it was crushing this rainbow hematite, and the whole road looked like a rainbow. Well, we thought this would be an incredible winner. It didn't really cost a lot because they weren't really looking for that. It was just a byproduct of other mining, but we could never get it together. You know, they kept saying, well, they're not really going to spend any time doing it. So we were never able to successfully get that one to market, but I predict that would have been just spectacular. Once again, in the vein of the agates, there were a bunch of agates that we ran across when we were in Brazil, and some were like this, just perfectly matched, again, highly translucent. We called this one a Saturn agate because it has those kind of like the rings of Saturn on there. They also had quite a bit of petrified wood. This is Brazilian petrified wood. This was a little bit more on the expensive side. The agates were costing almost nothing. Now, another great way to find new gems is the Tucson Gem Show. And I'm going to do another lesson, I think, because I think we may be getting close to getting back to normal for international gem and jewelry shows. My favorite happens to be the Tucson Gem Show, and for most of the audience here, you're probably can get to Tucson pretty easily. And I'm going to go in great detail about all the shows there, because there are literally dozens and dozens of shows out there. And I'll tell you some of my favorites. But that's been a great source for me to find a lot of gemstones. In fact, I have a person who travels exclusive to the mines in the Southwest. I know I've told you this story before. And I was at the time looking for something that would be like just a white agate. And the white agate, for some reason, went up in price. My friend Frank, who travels all over the Southwest, he showed me buckets and buckets of this. And it's white magnesite that goes by the name of pristine. I did a lesson on that for you too. And I probably would have passed on it until he showed me this. This was a polished piece. See, the other side looks almost like cauliflower. This is the polished piece. When I tell you this material, I can get for next to nothing. I can get it for next to nothing. And so we had a little good run with that as a new gem that we introduced to a lot of people. Still being in the Tucson Gem Show, as you know, we did a lot of white buffalo. And it was during the Tucson Gem Show that Frank, the other guy, showed me this. Now, this looks a lot like the white buffalo, but it's not. In fact, this is almost more of a quartz consistency. You can see the shine that takes. This is a California white horse that he discovered. I never really went into this one. I would probably do it again in the future. But why did I not do it? Because the white buffalo, I was getting an equally good price on that out of Nevada. And my customer base already was very familiar with the white buffalo and they wanted it. So I never got into that, but that might be something in the future. Now, speaking of Nevada, when Judy and I and my friend Tom Elliott and our friend Frank, who finds us all this rough, were traveling to Nevada looking for the number 8 mine. And we shot the number 8 mine, but then Tom had another acquaintance that had a couple of mine holdings in the southern part. We were up in the northern part of the state. So actually he was actually in Utah, now that I think about it. And he had something called snowflake obsidian. Now, if you've ever seen obsidian, which we find all over the place, sorry about that, it's that beautiful, naturally occurring black volcanic glass. All you're seeing is a reflection of the ring light. There's no white in there. Well, this guy, had a snowflake obsidian mine. Look at all that. You see the black, but this has natural white, looks like snowflakes in there. And that's a snowflake obsidian. And we got a pretty good price on that one. That one could be very, very popular. And sometimes I'm just meeting with that guy, Frank. He brings his truck where he lives in his truck. And he just starts to show me things with very weird and different names. Oh, I love this one. This is one that comes from Mexico. And the name of this one is Spider Jasper. And you can see it looks like a spider. And I could show you a bunch of them in here that have all of that kind of black webbing in this kind of caramel brown stone. again, not very expensive, something that's very beautiful. And I start to decide which ones do I want to promote, which ones do I think will be a big hit. This is one I never did anything with, but I thought it was really, really pretty. And he named it, I forget where he found this, somewhere in the Four Corners area. He called it the pistachio stone. Look how pretty that is. Now I thought this would be a more limited in its reach, because people are, you know, this kind of pistachio green color, they're either into it or they're not. So I wasn't willing to take a big risk on that one. Here's another one I never did anything with, not because I didn't want to. So again, at the Tucson Gem Show, I'm in an area south of a road called Speedway, and you have a lot of different shows there that even if you don't necessarily have credentials, you can travel to some of those parts of those shows, and you may not get the wholesale price, but you'll still get a pretty good price. But I was I was looking at one of these places, and I was intrigued by this. And this is, you can say, well, it doesn't really look like much. That's genuine ruby in this stone. So sort of a green or whitish stone. Most of it comes from the continent of India, or the subcontinent of India. And it's called ruby and matrix. Well, I love this. The price was really, really great. At the end of the day, it's a very hard stone, and I couldn't get anybody that was willing to buy enough to make jewelry out of it. And remember, in the shopping channels, I have a very, very large audience that I need to feed them a lot of stuff. So I never did something about the ruby and matrix. Once again, when we're back in Brazil, we're looking at just barrels and barrels and barrels of rough. And we ended up finding this one down there. See, it's a chatoyant stone. And one of the names for it is seraphinite, because when you polish this up, it looks like kind of the angel's wings, like almost in a white snow in that chatoyancy. So that's something we've had some success with. So my point in all of this is, if you're really interested in gems, I want you to open your eyes to a lot more of those different possibilities that are out there. Sometimes it's just an instinct. So when we were in the Peruvian area of one of the shows in the Tucson Gem Show, we came across this material. Really, really pretty. It's a natural, untreated Peruvian onyx. That's a genuine onyx in that color without it being dyed. We thought that was amazing, so we did something with that. But sometimes you kind of never know. And sometimes you're going to even things that are a little bit more rare. And this is one I would have loved to have done something with. Let's see if I can show this to you. It's highly translucent. Okay, this is a natural Kentucky agate. It's actually illegal to actively mine this material, but if the rain washes it into a gully, you're allowed to pick it up and do something with it. But it's so rare, the price tag on that one would have been a little bit too high. So I didn't end up doing anything with that. I just kept that for a specimen for me. And sometimes it's as simple as just more of your friends talking to you. And I was traveling in the Southwest with my friend Peter Vida, and that's when we went to the Sleeping Beauty mine, we went to the Kingman mine, we went all over the place. And he told me about an acquaintance of his that he knew that was mining chrysocolla. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I've seen a lot of chrysocolla before. You can get it in many states in the Southwest. He said, no, you have to see this. This is the best chrysocolla I've ever seen. So we ended up going to this mine. I think Wes was the name of the guy who had the leasehold of the mine. And we had to be very careful when we were filming that mine, because he didn't want anybody to recognize the rock formations and the mountain ranges, because he's afraid they would come and start noodling through his tailings. But this is one of the prettiest chrysocolla mines I've ever visited. It's just incredible color. In fact, it reminded me very much. This is some of the most expensive turquoise you ever see. This is called Bisbee. Has a kind of maroon or purplish matrix, just like this. So I did something with this, and we had a great deal with that. And then sometimes you just fall in love with a stone, and you're going to make it work. And that was real. That's actually, I know this is a piece of Native American handmade jewelry, but this is the wild horse. Now, wild horse is also a magnesite, but unlike this magnesite that's a pure white, look at the staining in this. It reminds you almost of the ponies of the Southwest. And this, I remember we put this out on a table when we were in Tucson, and everybody had to stop and look at that material. It was just amazing. So once again, I want you to open your horizons. I want you to start going into rock shops. A lot of people have been asking me about where you can go to get rough. What are the shows that you can go to? What are the shows that maybe you are limited to only if you're in the trade? I'm going to do a lesson next week on that very subject, and hopefully that'll clear some things up for you, and I'll give you some suggestions of some of the shows to visit while you're there. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this particular edition of the Colored Gemstone Academy. I really do appreciate you watching. We will come back to you next week at this same time with some suggestions about shows like the Tucson Gem Show, and we'll get back to our question and answer series, which always will be on Wednesday evenings at 5 p.m. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.